Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. And we have definitely a few things here to discuss this evening. As you could see, the basin remains quite active with a few areas and blobs of showers and thunderstorms, but we've only got two areas on the outlook. As you could see here, recently, the National Hurricane Center has now given us our second wave. This is the wave that we've been talking about that could potentially slip into the Caribbean over the last few days. And then, of course, Invest 92L, which currently has a 90% chance of development over the next 48 hours and 7 days, respectively. Our new area currently sits at a 0% chance over the next 48 hours and then a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. As you can see, this doesn't really move very far, very fast. If this were to develop, this would then want to follow in what would be Gabrielle's footsteps. Okay, taking a look at the spaghetti plots as far as Invest 92L is concerned. As you can see, this potentially has a threat for Bermuda. No real threat out here for our friends in the islands, here in the Leewards, Virgin Islands, anywhere in the Caribbean. But our friends out here in Bermuda really recommended to keep a very close watch on this. As you could see with the Euro ensembles. Now, we've got this out 10 days. We'll pull it back to 7. It does seem like that this storm would want to turn well east of Bermuda as far as what the Euro's determination is here this evening. That would be a very positive sign for those folks if it were to pass to the east of them. But it is still recommended for folks in Bermuda to just keep an eye on it to make sure that the forecast track remains well off to the east. Now, if we push this out 10 days, as you could see, there are just two lines. Nothing significant getting out here into the Caribbean, but there is a small signal over here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. And that's a concern. And I'll show you why here shortly because it has also been highlighted by our new Global Tropics Hazards Outlook today. So it's certainly going to have to be something to keep a watch on. So let's compare that to the Euro AI. Now, if we push this out 7 days, there is a little bit of uncertainty with 92L as saying if it is a little bit slower, a little bit further to the west and to the south, that it may be able to get near Bermuda. But the majority of the guidance and the highest probability would be well east of Bermuda itself. So, again, that's what we're hoping on. Now, if we look down here at day 7, we have a little grouping of about 5 circles. Now, that represents approximately 10% chance, but it's not zero. And then we also have a little area of low pressure here off the east coast of Florida, just north of the Bahamas. This would be a non tropical entity, most likely at this point. Still another area of low pressure. It's this little cluster, even though it's only a 10%, that honestly has the majority of my attention. Because if this were to come to fruition, and we've watched the models bounce back and forth over the last couple days, actually the last few days, where it'll show a signal. See, that was the 6Z. Here's the 0, nothing. 18Z, a little something. 12Z yesterday, nothing. 6Z day before, yeah, it's there. So, and as you could see, the 0Z prior to that, there was quite a few. So again, the signal is bouncing back and forth. It's a very low signal, but this particular signal would be a threat to land. and would be threat to populated areas. As you could see, you would potentially have something rolling through the Lesser Antilles, and then you would have something emerging into the Caribbean. And at that point, unless it dies out over open waters, a second landfall would potentially be in line and in store. And we just don't want to see anybody get hit by anything. So this is why we, folks down here with this second wave here into the islands, please just keep a watch on this. It's just that time of year. And then when we get further down the line, really any tropical wave that makes it into the Caribbean and starts to work its way across should be monitored by folks here in the state of Florida because, well, we're getting into that time of the year. And don't worry, you guys don't have to watch them. We will. I'll be watching every single one of them. So now, if we compare the AI Euro and the AI Legacy with the GEFS, this gets a little bit more concerning for the folks here in Bermuda. The GEFS has some of its guidance, I would say, kind of split a little bit, that would potentially get it uncomfortably close to Bermuda. And that is something that we do not want to see. We do not want to see that at all. We really want no threat. Just if we could get through this season with no threat, no like significant threat to land by some kind of powerful system, I will be so happy. We haven't had a season like that in a very long time, and I would like to experience one of them again. So now we're going to jump over to the Google DeepMind. Now, the Google DeepMind has a couple interesting features. As you can see here, we have our other wave that we'll talk about here in a little while out here into the Eastern Pacific. Here comes our wave number 2. And if you notice, the Google DeepMind only has one little circle on that. That's a 2% chance. Right now, there's a 20% chance from the National Hurricane Center on this potentially developing. And though that wave is awfully fast, as you could see here, that little signal comes through very, very quickly. And now, if we look here behind it, we don't have as much, and this is out 7 days. As we continue to run this forward, now we're into basically La La Land, but look at the Eastern Pacific. Maybe a little something that tries to bend back and gets a little bit too close and threatens those folks there on the Baja Peninsula. So right now, the Google DeepMind really isn't into what we were talking about, but let's go back to the 0Z run if it'll let me. And unfortunately, it will not let me. Hold on. Let's try this one more time. Okay. Now it'll let me. Now, this was the Google DeepMind in the 0Z run. As you can see, there is just a few. There's not a lot, but just a few. Again, a non-zero chance, running at about a 10%. But knowing what time of year it is and knowing that that is the one outside of Bermuda that could potentially threaten, it's best to at least try to keep people aware of it, not nervous of it, but just keep an eye on it. That's all I ask, is just to increase awareness on that particular wave. And with the 0Z, as you can see, getting out into portions of La La Land, the Google DeepMind is wanting to fire up CAG. That was never something that folks here in the state of Florida like to talk about when we get into the latter part of the season. But again, this is the current 12Z run on the Google DeepMind. As you could see, with this particular run, it has less of a signal for CAG, but still a very, very small signal. But noting that if anything out here into the main development region tries to organize and it tries to develop, it's going to go out into the open waters. So, for the likely path and the likely scenario of anything out here is going to pull up and out. But those real weak ones that can slip through, we've got one right now. We have a tropical wave right now that is not forecast to form, and it is sitting right here. It's moving through right now. Now, this isn't forecast to form, but as you could see, there is a great deal of moisture there. That's what we're talking about is, like we have Invest 92L here, we've got our other little spot back here, and if this slips, then it becomes a potential threat. It might not be a threat here, but it could continue to slip and get down into here. It all depends. All these little tropical waves have to be watched right now. It's that time of year, and folks could say, like you don't really have to watch it like that, but when you've seen so many disastrous outcomes for the state of Florida, being a Florida native myself, Michael, Wilma, Ian, I don't really have to go much further than that, even though there are plenty more examples. And those have been just recently within the last 20 years. And they have been extraordinarily impactful. I mean, you look at Milton last year. Milton wasn't necessarily a CAG generated storm coming from the Western Caribbean, but it still moved across, formed out here into the western portions of the Gulf and moved across. Helene, it just becomes instinctual to really, really monitor this part of the basin as we get into this particular time of the year. Now, I've got halves, and I just want to show everybody that halves has a certain feature on this, and I thought it was pretty interesting because I do want to show it. I'm actually going to show it in comparison with Earthnull. So right now, this is the view of 92L on Earthnull. As you can see, it is very elongated at the surface like this. And you could give an argument that you've got one area of vorticity here and one area of vorticity there. And they're kind of just rotating around one another, trying to consolidate into one particular feature. This one going this way, and this one trying to come back around this way. What this formation needs to do is basically, it's like this now. It needs to stand up and then roll over on itself. So this way it creates that area of vorticity and tightens up that circulation. And that's exactly what Halves A shows here tonight. So we've got this out 27 hours. As you can see, you've got that elongated feature. There it is. And then now it stands up and rolls over on top of itself. And then it is able to then establish, takes a couple hours, takes a few hours to kind of get its vertical alignment and its structure correct. And then, boom, here we go. And we're still going. Not slowing down either. At the end of this is maximum winds of 121 knots, which would be approximately 140 mile an hour Category 4 storm, with a minimum central pressure of 951. That's significant. Now, if I compare that to Halves B, 115 knots, which is a Category 4, 130 miles an hour, with a minimum central pressure of 945.9 millibars. And as we could see, there's Bermuda right there, right? Let's get the crayons. Right there. And as we get to the end, as you can see, the storm itself is still moving in a little bit more of a westerly heading, but is forecast to turn. So, big time. Halves is all over this thing with the intensity. And speaking of intensity, as you can see, halves is way up here. Cat 4. Halves A is on its way to 5, basically. But the rest of them want to keep it into a tropical storm status and maybe get it up into a little bit of a hurricane strength. Halves is extraordinarily aggressive. This particular model right here is the H Wharf. This one. That's the H Wharf. This is halves B. This is halves A. So, and you've got your HMON is way down here. That's actually kind of a good sign. Your consensus rides right here. High end Cat 1. Reaching Cat 2 status momentarily. So, when you average in these three, there's no wonder. But those are the hurricane specific models. And the HMON is also a hurricane specific model. So you got 3 out of the 4 that want to bring this to a major right now over the next 126 hours. So it's certainly going to be something to watch. The ship's forecast. This is interesting because we don't have a lot of upper level divergence here. If you notice with this gray colored line here within the circled area, the oceanic heat content is there. The storm speed itself is not too fast, not too slow. So it's going to be very interesting. It has, very, very minimal rapid intensification probabilities. We're going to be keeping a very close watch on this. The stronger it gets, the quicker it's turning. That much we know. And as you can see here, with the overall wind shear, that wind shear remains a little high and then just plummets. And in response, this dark blue line right here is the storm wind and strength. And as you can see, that skyrockets. So, well, not skyrockets, but it definitely starts to increase and steadily. We'll say that much. Okay, jumping over to our Euro and GFS 850 millibar vorticity. We've got this little spot out here off the west coast or the east coast of the U.S. As you can see, this persistent little thing. It's frontal. It's remained frontal, as you can see here. It's remained frontal. It's non-tropical, but boy, it's certainly causing some problems up there. But these are the areas that we're looking for, are areas of rotation and spin. As you can see, approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. As I run this forward, you will note that there's our second wave as well. Both models really want to try to intensify this. The Euro wants to intensify this quite a bit and rather quickly, but also keep in mind, look what happens. Even the GFS and the Euro, that little wave of energy. Now, you can't see it as much. It's right here on the GFS. It really didn't hold together. But you've got this little pocket of energy right here. This is our first wave. This would be wave number 3. And as you could see, the GFS, we're out 180 hours at this point. The GFS has something organized. The Euro has a pocket of energy there for sure. Another wave behind it back here. So we've got a few waves that we're going to be dealing with. It's this one that I am the most concerned with out of all of them. What does that wave do? Where does that wave go? Because that one is a low rider. If it interacts like the Euro is calling here, and it interacts with the mountainous terrain of Hispaniola, falls apart, shears out, great. I'm all for it. It's just it's watching that particular wave, because if we look at any of the other so-called seeds, we don't have anything. We've got an area, a broad area of low pressure out here over and north of the Bahamas, and it turns into more of a non-tropical coastal low. And that's the only seed that we see. Now, the one thing that we will have to watch for is the consolidation of a little bit of energy out here into the western portions of the Gulf as these troughs wash out and the front kind of just drags in. We could see a little bit of energy out here try to materialize as we go forward. And although we really don't on these particular runs, it's something that we're going to have to watch for, just because the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook gives that a 20 to 39% chance for that particular week. All right, now we're into our humidity. We have the Euro on the left, GFS on the right again. On the top, we have our 500 millibar. On the bottom, we have our 700 millibar level. The top represents about 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. The bottom is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. So our browns represent dry air. Our greens and blues represent our moist air. As you could see, there is a considerable amount of dry air in and around where 92L is associated. The wave underneath it and below it, as you could see, would also be interacting and dealing with quite a bit of dry air. That is kind of a factor. We're out day 7 here, and as you could see, there is glaring differences. Definitely got a storm there. It's there. Our other wave in question is here. Because of the inflow that we see here and the dry air that is associated here, as the other wave was coming in, it got strung out and elongated and does not exist. You could see a little bit of the remnant moisture, but we remember looking on the vorticity that as this approached the islands, it got absolutely shredded. And the energy was no longer there. If we continue to run this forward, you will see with the Euro a little bit of that moist pocket try to reach, but it runs into the islands. Now, into the mid-levels, as far as what the Euro is calling for, and even the GFS, we got a little pocket of moisture right here, but this is a good sign. We've got a lot of dry air there. We've got a considerable amount of dry air there. And again, we've got a decent amount of dry air across the Caribbean with the GFS. This would be ideal. We just need to buy a few more weeks. That's all. Just watching that one low riding wave. Like I said, maybe a 10% chance, but it's not a zero. I would like to deal with 0. 10 is okay. You've got my attention. 10, you certainly do. But is it likely to be anything? No. But you definitely got my attention, because that is the particular path and angle of approach that would be needed to tap into that water into the Caribbean and potentially into the Gulf. And if that were to materialize, it's also right around the time that some pretty historical disasters have occurred in the state of Florida. So climatologically, it just lines up with some of the recent history. So I'm paying a little bit more of attention to that than I am others. I'm not gonna lie. All right, we have our wind shear model. We've got the euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This represents the 200 millibar, which is approximately 40,000 feet, down to the 850 millibar, which is approximately 5,000 feet. So all of that air column in between, 35,000 feet. Do we have a change with wind and at height? What are we looking at? And as we could see, the Gulf remains quite hostile for tropical cyclone development. All right, it really does. But then there is down here a little spot, and as you could see, the Caribbean, there is a decent amount of low shear environment here in day 7, day 8 on the euro. The GFS injects a little bit of shear there, but it's not a lot. Now, one thing that the GFS does do is just a little burst of energy right here, right along the coast. The euro doesn't really show that. Um, a lot of it is going, if we get something in the Pacific, in the Eastern Pacific, that is going to help increase the shear over the western portion of the Atlantic Basin. So over the Gulf, potentially even into the Caribbean as well. And then we have our persistent upper level lows. I'll show you that on Earth Null here in a second. That's also increasing some of the shear, plus with the dry air. So the systems right now have to find a specific pocket of conducive conditions. Not everywhere is conducive and not everywhere is hostile. They kind of ebb and flow right now. And as we could see with the dust, this is another one of those factors. It's late season, like it's very surprising that this dust has actually existed as long as it has this season. But as you could see, Invest 92L is still dragging a little bit. The other wave behind it is also dragging some, and that's the one to watch. In my opinion, that's the only one outside of our friends here in Bermuda. Bermuda, you just need to keep your eye on just about everything right now. The way that this East Coast troughing pattern is set up, the way that these storms that come off the African mainland, roll across, get caught up in that weakness of the high, get caught up with that trough, pull up and pull to the north. You just need to watch everything, Bermuda, right now. It's just that second wave is the only one that really has my attention. And again, it's about a 10% chance. That's it. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Taking a look real quick tonight at our MJO. We're still rolling here about phase 8, phase 1, really more towards phase 1 than it is 8. It is forecast to kind of fall back within the circle and not really have much amplification. And then maybe from the discussion of the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook today, maybe come back and kind of build back and just kind of stay stagnant over phases 1 and 2. That would be no, that I would not like that at all. That would be just completely uncalled for, and would not be acceptable in my personal opinion. Though Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature is going to do, and is not going to care in the absolute slightest about my feelings whatsoever as far as what she's going to do. But that would be terrible if that were to occur. Now, again, on Earth Null, as you could see, that other blob that's out here, that's more mid-level. It's kind of a trough. It's not much. It's an absolute mess out here when you get into the upper levels. Here we are at the 850 millibar level, the 700 millibar level, and then the 500 millibar level. As you can see, we've got the developing system here, but our other upper level low that is associated, and all of these, let's zoom out just a little bit, all of these upper level lows have been coming around and just kind of passing off this way. And here's one of the previous ones right here. There's one there, and if we were to take a look, there's probably another one that's going to be developing somewhere in this region and going to tear out as well. It's been doing it all season long. One upper level low right after another one, just kind of creeping across the basin. This has been a contributing factor to the dry air. It hasn't all just been Saharan air out there this year that's been causing the suppression of the tropical cyclones. This wave breaking, these upper level lows just falling apart, as you can see here. That's been having a detrimental effect towards tropical cyclone development as well. If you guys want to kind of see what upper level divergence looks like, as you can see with the top part of our wave axis right now, I'll zoom in so it may show up a little clearer. You could see that the air is rising and running out in pretty much all directions. This is our divergence. As the air rises up through the atmosphere, here we're 6 miles above the ocean surface at this point. As the air rises up, it is escaping with that convection. And that's what's causing more convection to develop. So this is the conducive environment that we speak of right now. There's upper level divergence going on, and now if you had air kind of riding in and colliding in on that point, that would be your upper level convergence, where the air meets together and then sinks down. So right now it's pretty much green light, and if we take a look at the satellite imagery, it just needs to get the convection organized. The wave needs to stand up, roll over on itself, and consolidate the convection. But until this thing is totally developed, it remains. It's going to remain respected and kind of watched over. All right, what? Yeah, no, the crayons are mine. Even Kylie don't even get my crayons. They're all mine. Me and her got a running joke on that. So crayons are all mine. Can't have my crayons. You gotta get your own crayons. This is our new Global Tropics Hazards Outlook for today. This is hot off the press. This just came out this afternoon. As you can see, we do have new information. This is week 2, the last week of September. Notice, southwestern Gulf. Potential out here into the Eastern Pacific. Now, if the energy dispels off into the Eastern Pacific, we probably wouldn't see much here into the Gulf, but it is not a guarantee. The waters over there in the Gulf are legitimate rocket fuel for thunderstorm and tropical cyclone activity. So it's just an area that we're going to have to keep a watch on. One positive sign is, nope, that's not what I wanted. One positive sign is this potential track right here. That promotes keeping everything away from land. And as you can see, Bermuda, located right there, is just on the very edge of that increased moisture. And now, getting into the first week of October, this is where things get a little interesting. Because on the discussion, in the discussion from the Climate Prediction Center, there could be the development and formation of the Central American Gyre. This is very interesting because this is, again, October 1st to October 7th. And if we watch that particular wave and we run it all the way out, we're 10 days out, 12 days out before we even get that thing out here. We're at the 16th, the 28th. Like, I'm not saying that that would develop, but that could just bring a little bit of extra energy. And we may see already energy existing with frontal boundaries and stuff like that. So we're definitely not out of the woods yet. And being that they mentioned the Central American gyre specifically in the Climate Prediction Center's discussion for the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook this afternoon, we're definitely going to be keeping a watch on this. So first week of October, um, we're not out of hurricane season, folks. It's way too early for that. And then our spot here, but by the time that we get to October, the only real threat would be something like this at that point. As far as making it to the United States, yeah, I doubt that. I doubt that very highly. Not if it develops out there in the main development region. By the time we get to October, our U.S. threats, other than Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and then our friends out here into the island chain, Lesser Antilles, that's when we really got to watch for them as well, because they're not going to make it all the way across the basin. There's just too much weakness in the high over the period of 10, 12, 15 days that it takes to get there. Now, there is something that I do want to highlight here this evening when we jump out to the Eastern Pacific. We've got Tropical Storm Mario, but I want to draw your little attention to this little guy right here. It's nothing, okay? It's absolutely nothing. But everything else is going this way. And that one's coming this direction. And there's another little vorticity back behind it as well. And another one right there. And they're all headed that direction. So, yeah, things are materializing out here into the Eastern Pacific. It's acting a little, like it's doing its thing. Certainly, its own thing. But if we take a look at the outlook, we have Invest 96E. Currently has a 70% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. If we come back here, it is just this broad area of spin, basically right. Well, we'll try that one more time. We wanted to erase things. There we go. It is that broad area of rotation right there. You definitely have some low-level westward clouds heading this way, and you've got some clouds heading that way. It won't be long. Just need a little bit of good convection. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised sometime tomorrow if we get something in this region as far as a developed system. Now, let's talk about Tropical Depression Mario real quick. 23.0 north, 117.7 west. Maximum sustained winds are down to 35 miles an hour, and it is currently moving northwest at 10. Minimum central pressure of 1,005 millibars. There are no coastal watches or warnings in effect, and there are no hazards affecting land. As you can see with the forecast cone, we will not be talking about this storm tomorrow. This zombie will finally meet its maker and be off to into the book of history. As far as the discussion is concerned, we could not. The one thing that is here, while Mario is forecast to dissipate as a tropical cyclone well to the south of California, its remnant moisture will spread farther north, affecting portions of the southwestern United States by mid to late week. Locally, heavy rainfall and some instances of flash flooding will be possible by Thursday. Okay, let's take a look. You know what? Let's do this. We'll go there. We'll reset the navigation. We will get the model blend. We will come to the southeastern United States. I did not want the dust model. Okay, thank you. And we will now also grab the Weather Prediction Center's official forecast for the southwestern United States. And, okay. And why did that not load? Okay, let's try that again. Alright, this time we've got it. As we could see here, we've got the WPC and their Weather Prediction Center's official forecast on the left, the NOAA blend of models here on the right. As you could see, there is, now you guys, for us folks over here on the East Coast, that rainfall doesn't look like a lot, but you're also dropping that rainfall into desert conditions and desert areas and mountainous terrain as well. That rainfall will not play well with others. Some of it, not all of it, but there's some of that rainfall that will not play well with others, and especially if it falls too fast, too quick. So as we could see here, definitely getting into Thursday and potentially into Friday as well for the southeast or the southwestern U.S. Just monitor your local National Weather Service office for any potential watches or warnings that may be issued for your area. Yeah, WPC forecast out 7 days. Southern California getting in there pretty decent amount in a couple areas, and especially in elevated terrain, and anywhere that have had a lot of those recent burn scars and stuff like that. It could be a problem. It really could. Our ensembles, the Euro Legacy and the Eastern Pacific, as you could see, there is the potential for something to draw up and want to threaten land over the next week and a half. So everybody out there, just stay vigilant. We're in peak season right now, and it's not a surprise that we're starting to look at things that could potentially threaten. Not saying that there is any potential threat, but it could. There are signals. They're low, but they're signals nonetheless. And looking at the Euro AI out here, the majority of this wants to keep it much further to the south and to the west of the mainland, but then again, there are just a few there that also drive it up. The GEFS, though, wants to keep pretty much everything away from land, which would be, that would be nice. I would like that. But there is more than likely going to be more than just what we have on the outlook still yet to develop. And last but not least, we have Tropical Storm 23W and now Invest 90W. This is the one that we have been talking about. Kylie even mentioned it on Saturday. We started talking about this one last Friday. This wave right here, 90W, ooh, watch out. But the rainfall from Tropical Storm 23W here is pretty much right over Luzon. And they're getting a lot of heavy tropical downpours. And flooding is almost a guarantee at this point in time. As you can see, this is pulling up. We'll get into the South China Sea and then rotate over. And right now, the cone of uncertainty has the center line pretty much right on Hong Kong. Okay, let's go back to the Google DeepMind real quick. Let's come back and we're going to rewind this to day, well, we'll just go with day 5. Ooh, hold on for this one. because as you can see here, it is a category 4 on the overall mean of the ensemble. And it is still forecast to intensify a little bit more as it comes through here. Just about every ensemble, as I'm going through, as it's kind of moving through the gap between the Philippines and Taiwan, if this thing stays well away from land and it does not have any negative impacts with land interactions, this is almost guaranteed to be a major hurricane. And as you can see here, with the DeepMind model and its model distribution and its max wind speed, when we get into about September 22nd right here, look at this. The majority of your guidance is between a Cat 3 and a Cat 5. And that's a lot of lines right there. That's so many lines that 35 of them are a category 4, 10 of them are a category 3. So this 90W should be treated with the utmost respect and monitor this one very, very closely. Because even if it gets out here, there's still quite a few signals of the potential of a major, this would be in some cases potentially a super typhoon in a few of these models, but it would be a very, very strong typhoon and would be a major hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. And that would be tremendous impacts here into China and potentially points beyond, depending on what track it takes. We really, really don't want to see anybody get hurt, but this one's got uh-oh written all over it. So, and again, that's the difference between, looking at a few dots like what we have been just watching and something of a much larger, more worrisome signal. This is 90W. What we're watching back there, yes, we've got 92L, but as far as that second wave goes, we do not have a similar signal. And the DeepMind has been performing tremendously well for a debut model this year. I'm really impressed with it. All right, everybody. We are just about done for the evening. Let me check. Yeah, no, don't let your guard down. Do not let your guard down. Definitely not. We are not out of the woods yet. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here for tonight. We will be back live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow night. So if you guys want to join us then, we'll take a look, see if the AI models are still back and forth on our second wave, see if we've got Gabrielle by that point in time yet, and we'll check in on the remnants of Mario and see if we've got our new spot out there into the Eastern Pacific by that point in time. So, and again, we'll definitely be checking on Invest 90W. That one, that's got my attention. That could be quite disastrous if left unchecked there for sure. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Good night.